Ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats, welcome to the Side Quest, your weekly journey into the wonderful world of video games and video game culture, where four people, two of them who are sick, are on a podcast with you this week to talk about games. And we're going to try something different this week because it's been a slower news week. We are reviewing some games, but we figured, those can wait till next week. I think Taylor has 40 games that he's reviewing all at once, so it's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm slowly metamorphizing.
Slowly metamorphizing. Now that he's back from vacation, picked up some good bugs over there. But Zach brought up a good idea where once a month we should try something a little different on the podcast and do something fun where we sort of do homework, right, Zach?
Homework, yeah.
Homework. And this first one, I think, was a good idea because you had actually tagged a couple of us on a tweet, basically what are the five most meaningful games. And so took it upon ourselves to discuss our five most meaningful games. I'm going to be yawning a lot. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. I drove to Toronto yesterday morning. We left the house at like 7:20, 7:30. Went to Toronto for a day trip and drove back in the same day. So you got almost 4 hours each way.
Nice.
With like a 4.5 hour break in the middle there. So I'm still very tired. And the 5-hour energy drink didn't kick in, which I took after I left Toronto on the road. Didn't manage to kick in until about midnight last night. And so
if only you would have taken the ghost energy tubs.
I should have taken the ghost. I'm also sporting my Detroit Lions gear because, as we all know, the Lions lost to Seattle.
To Seattle. What a shame.
Well, that was a fun ass game. That
was a fucking basketball score.
It was a basketball score. It was two very bad teams. One team which has zero defense and everybody on the offense is injured, which is my Lions, but we somehow made it close at the end. But it was entertaining, least entertaining. So
two teams failing into success.
Yes. So we're going to discuss the games that are most meaningful to us. And please, in the comments, go ahead and tell us your most meaningful games, whatever your favorite games. What games meant the most to you? We did have some great comments in the Discord, so I encourage you to hop in the Discord and click in the podcast area there because we're going to read a few of those tonight. But I figure, Zach, this was your idea. We're going to let you go first. And I'd like to keep it to, let's say 5 minutes per person with maybe a minute per game, kind of say your piece. And then we'll take a few minutes after that to discuss. And I think that'll be good. Hey, Stefan. That'll be a good way to kind of go about this because that'll be a 25-30 minutes right there. And I'm sure we're going to be bouncing stuff back and forth. So,
you get bonus points for taking less time.
taking less time. So, Zach, go on ahead. If you want to share something.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. Hold on. Cool. I just have a little PowerPoint, as I always do.
Nice. I should probably make mine right now.
I'll share. Yeah, I'll share. I got mine. I'm ready to share my screen too.
So who wants? Okay.
No.
I'm not sharing the screen. Yeah, I've got props.
I meant when it's my turn.
Are we doing all five? Are we doing all five at once? Or are we rotating?
We're just gonna do all five at once. Why not?
Yeah.
Good.
God, no! If we try and do a round, it's like round robin. It's gonna take forever, dude.
Exactly. Right. That's why I said.
I will just leave.
Okay, so the idea is like most impactful games, and I was saying before the podcast, like I think most impactful games personally are still like my favorite games, like the games I'll talk about a lot. And I've actually done a lot of like meditating, maybe thought, like just like thinking about them a lot. And the games that I posted on Twitter, half of them or more aren't even on this list. Like they're just kind of like, okay, these kind of are games I love, but they're not like my favorite games. So yeah, so we're just gonna go through these. Number 5. Bayonetta 1 and 2 are probably, I'll just put them into one, but they're probably, they definitely are my favorite, just some of my favorite games. Obviously, they're on my list. I think she's an amazing character. She's funny. The way she interacts with the camera, like the camera is kind of like a character in these games. The way she is able, like, she's just showing off whenever she's being sexy and cool, and I think that that's a really interesting, empowering thing. And I think she's really funny, and the gameplay's fun, story's crazy. Yeah, she's just like super cool, and I like character action games, and I think this is the best example of that. Number 4, Shadow of the Colossus. Yeah, this is a game I played in like 6th grade, I think, when it first came out, and it really made a huge impact on me as like a person. The way the game makes you think about nature and the world that you're impacting as a human, as the character, is just so it's just really depressing at the end of the day, seeing how everything comes together, and yeah, the story, if I don't want to spoil it, but it's not a happy ending. But yeah. Number 3, Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life. So this is the GameCube Harvest Moon game. Well, it's one of them, but it's the best one, and I think it's the best Harvest Moon Story of Seasons game in general. It has all the things that people like in these series. It has rivals that you have to compete for your wife, for your husband. Your kids grow up. You get to see them become young adults and like go off. You get to grow old with the person that you get to marry. And yeah, it's just all the good farming simulation stuff in a game, and the characters are great. The city's, I think, the best one. Yeah, it's really, really cool. There's a remake coming out soon. Really excited about that. Number 2 is Lisa the Painful. This game it's a depressing game, which I like depressing stuff, but you play a guy named Brad. He is like, you exist in this post-apocalyptic world. There's no human that exist anymore. They all got wiped out. And one day a girl is just born from like a corpse, and you have to protect this girl, and take her from one place to the other. What's interesting in the game is, one, it's really funny. It's really just quirky and just like strange, but the gameplay makes you choose in important sections, like sacrifice a limb, or sacrifice something important, like an arm, an eye, or get stabbed, or all these choices that you get throughout the game. So it's like you sacrifice your body, or you sacrifice a party member or something else in the story. And it's just really impactful, and the way it comes together at the end is pretty insane. Yeah. Number 1, Okami. It's, I mean, it still looks good. It's a PS2 game, but yeah, it's the perfect example of like an adventure. It's also a perfect example of what I love about games, where the gameplay and the world inform each other, and they go kind of hand in hand. My dogs are fighting again. I hate when they do this. Hey guys, stop. Hey, come here.
We're talking about Okami. Cut it out.
Yeah, listen. Zach's dogs are fighting while he's talking about his fighting dog. Let's get
Yeah, so it's just, yeah, it has all the things I love about games. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing aesthetic. You play as a dog, which is really cool. I mean, a wolf. You're the reincarnation of God, and you're just kind of coming back to like redo what your incarnation prior did. So it's kind of like the Bible. Like it's like God in the Old Testament. It's like if the New Testament was a game, that's what this is. It's really interesting that they take the lore of a religion and make it into a video game. But yeah, the way you interact with the world with like the painting board and you're able to just like actually put your hands on the world that exists is just so breathtaking. The stories are like great. It's just also fun to look at, and it's fun to play because it's a character action game by Hideki Kamiya, guy who made Bayonetta, The Wonderful 101, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3. Yeah, he's cool, but this is probably his best game. And yeah, I mean, this is my favorite part are all the weapons that you get to have. I mean, like a dog with a big ass sword on her back is cool. A dog with like, if you can have one in your main hand and one in your sub hand. So, for example, if you have like the rosary beads on the left as your secondary, she shoots them out of her mouth like a laser beam, which is super cool. And then you can have the sword as a secondary. You can like ride it when you're like fighting things. You can like ride it, and it's cool. You're like doing combos and you freeze the game and like pull up like a piece of paper and you like cut things and use magic. It's just so cool. Yeah, honorable mentions. All these games I talk about all the time. You can probably guess them, but that's them. And yeah, that's my list. And I'm glad I was able to do that in a short time.
Here we go.
Dark points, but yeah, you did all right.
So
There we go.
I mean,
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I was like, Bayonetta is a good.
It really is.
I kind of didn't expect Bayonetta on there, but it makes sense. At the end of the day, for you in particular, that Bayonetta would be on there. I never think of it as being one of my favorites, but the more I like, I'm always thinking about Bayonetta, and when Bayonetta 3 is coming out, I'm always like, I'm excited.
Yeah, she is such an amazing character. She doesn't get enough recognition. And there's always that weird conversation that happens when a game comes out that the game is like being too risque or like they're trying to sexualize her. And the fun thing about that is like she's doing it herself. Like she's like okay, the camera's here, okay, I'm gonna like do this. Like that's what's so fun about it is it's like it's an empowering thing. And yeah, it's just I just love her. I love those games.
It brings drag culture into gaming, which is kind of non-existent thing like that. I mean, it's all hypersexualized, but for the person doing the sexualizing.
It's all like high elevated like pop art, which is like so like cool.
I love your explanation of that because looking from the outside in, you look at Bayonetta. When I first saw Bayonetta, I'm like, okay, it's just hot anime chick. I saw the booth babe at E3 because they were really pushing the Bayonetta booth babe at Sega's booth, and that put me off until I actually played the game and realized, wow, Sega had no idea what they were doing with this marketing this franchise. And surprisingly, handed to Nintendo for actually marketing these games like correctly as a sort of she's a feminist icon, not a booth babe at a show, which is great for
and Nintendo also pushed them to like do more. They're like, no, this isn't like sexy enough. Like make the Link costume sexier. Like that's just that's what like they pushed them to do.
There's reason behind everything.
I
love that. Love the games.
Yeah, and just the story. I mean, the story is also like awesome.
Like woman, she is a woman on a self-discovery tour in the original game. Like throughout the series, really, just in different reasons for self-discovery throughout.
Yeah, she's trying to refine the love of her life, which is really cool. So
you had another game on your list, right? You had Harvest Moon, Bayonetta, Okami, and then there was one game on there.
Shadow of the Colossus.
No, the other one, that last one.
Lisa.
Yes.
Lisa?
Yeah. Lisa, yeah.
We mentioned this a couple times in the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's just it's a sorry, you were gonna say something, JJ?
No, I wasn't. I was gonna say, Allie, you gotta finish your thought.
No, it's such a unique experience. I've never played it. But
Yeah.
hearing you talk about it, it's definitely a different kind of jam. But
Yeah,
again,
it's really cool. It's made in RPG Maker like 2002 or something, but it's a 2D game, which is like generally it's a platforming game. So generally
Sure.
RPG Maker games are top down. So that's really interesting. But also besides the point, he made the OST, the soundtrack. There's a bunch of songs. They're really good. But he got the Fruity Loops version.
Sure.
He didn't pay for the pro version, so he has all like just like the built-in like sounds. So they're all
so great.
so they're all like these like they're all just like the default Fruity Loop sounds.
Sorry,
But like
can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you sound good. But
Okay.
yeah, it's a game that I love because it's like it's kind of the indie soul, you know. It has has all these like weird intricacies that could only come from a solo dev experience. But also just the content is very unique. It's just really dour and it's not really fun, but it's funny. It's really vulgar, but it's also really heartfelt. Yeah, it's an experience. And yeah, it does things that other games just don't do, which is cool. Like it makes you like choose your body. Like you can just go through the rest of the game just being a guy crawling around on the floor if you wanted to. Like yeah, and it just questions the morality behind your decisions and what you have done. It kind of just makes you feel like shit, which is cool. So yeah.
Okay. Well, Taylor, since you're going to be busting out a little bit early, I figured we'll let you go.
Sure.
Next.
All right. If you want, can I share?
Yes.
You want me to do the share thing? Yeah. Here you go. Zach, why are you shaking your head? No, man.
You can't share.
Why not?
Because Zach said you can't share.
Okay.
Go ahead and try sharing, and then
I'm working on it. Okay, here we go.
There's a button at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm clicking it. All right, there you go.
There you go. Love it.
I did it. I guess this goes down 1 through 5. Although, to be quite honest, I find it very difficult, if not impossible, to order preference of video games, even if we're just talking about memorability. But so I'll go from the bottom up just for the sake of it, though. Stardew Valley, just straight up the genre definer. I played Harvest Moons mostly on emulators when I was growing up. And always thought that they were nifty, but never really sat down and kind of like crushed one at any point in time because I didn't have an SNES, and for whatever reason I didn't buy them on an N64. So, and I didn't have a GameCube. So when NES and N64 were your two options, you didn't really do much. And so so Stardew Valley was instead that game for me. Ocarina of Time, this one will probably make it onto a lot of people's list. It's just kind of like, you know, it's the Zelda, and like I said, I had an N64 and not an SNES. So if I grew up with an SNES, this might have been Link to the Past, but it's not. Dota 2, the single-handed game that I've put the most hours into. It is a monolith of a video game. It's kind of
no, it's Bungie.
Yeah, right.
No, it's not.
But yeah, I mean, there's nothing quite that does what Dota 2 does. League of Legends being kind of the more notable in the genre is just different from my take, and we won't have that discussion here because we got on a time limit. Halo 3.
It was a good game.
It was the game. It just came out in kind of a particular time of my life as well, and probably why I did very poorly that year in college. I spent a lot of time on Halo 3. That was back before we tracked time playing games, but it's probably better that I don't know. And then Super Mario Bros. 3, my first, well, it's not my first game, but it's it might have been. But NES was certainly my first console. I widely consider Super Mario Brothers 3 to be one of the most well-designed. I don't know. I mean, game design is a tough thing to discuss in general, but if we're going to, I mean, I think that you could, and they probably already have written books about game design and just solely focused on Mario Brothers 3. I don't know. I've never read them. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was so young when I got an NES that I made my parents play Super Mario Brothers 3 instead, and then they got addicted to it. That's a story. And last thing is notables.
Oh, notables, good.
Just real quick. Pokemon Blue, because I really didn't like any of the other ones, if you want to be honest. I tried to play almost every generation of Pokemon, and I've never finished another one other than Pokemon Blue. And I've beaten Pokemon Blue a bunch of times.
Dang, all right.
Zelda Link's Awakening. So I grew up with a Game Boy Pocket, and I had the see-through electric green one. That thing was sick. I still have it. And from a cousin, I think, I got Zelda Link's Awakening in French.
Nice.
And I think it actually might have even been I literally might have been the first Zelda game that I ever played and the first Zelda game I ever beat. And it was way, way harder when it was in French. I do not think I was able to beat it until I got on GameFAQs and had to look it up, and that was tough. The Kingdom Hearts series, we've had our sequiturs.
It's also
on this.
on mine. I just didn't put it there, but it's on mine.
Yeah, I mean, I was planning on breezing through these, so I figured I could include a secondary list. And The Spy Goes to Hollywood. I had a Genesis growing up as well. That a kid from down the street gave to me when we were in grade school, and one of the games I had along with Sonic the Hedgehog was Spot Goes to Hollywood, and that was a really weird game. And it's like this weird isometric pseudo 3D. When you're playing all the other games that are on the Genesis and stuff, it looks very impressive, but it's a bitch to play. It sucks.
It was an era where they would take mascots and make the craziest shit you've ever seen.
But yeah, but every part of it was a real ass video game. You could have replaced Spot with whatever the hell you wanted, and it would have been this is a video game. But yeah, no, let's get the 7-Up mascot in there. Why not? Yeah. Who cares? But yeah, that's my secondary list, and that's it. I know mine's a little bit more boring than Zach. Sorry, I'm a boring guy.
It's just the nature of things on this podcast.
Of course, that's muted. I was gonna say, on your original list, you had all sequels on there. You had Zelda sequel, you had Dota 2, you had the Harvest Moon sequel, Stardew Valley. So there are all sequels that you had on
Stardew Valley does not count as a sequel. I don't care if you ran out of ideas.
Stardew Valley is the great reset for the farming sim. Everything prior to Stardew Valley was trying to copy Harvest Moon 64, and then everything after Stardew Valley is we have to be like Stardew Valley.
Second Impact.
Well, one thing I found really interesting about your list, Taylor, is that you went across basically every gaming platform. You had your NES, you had the Game Boy, you had PC games, you had Genesis, you had all kinds of stuff on there, which I thought was really cool, actually. And it just kind of shows how, as we game over the years,
how old I am.
How old you are. Well, wait to see my list.
When Zach said he played Shadow of the Colossus in 6th grade, my
you just you felt the wrinkles.
The remake of Shadow of the Colossus. I played that game in 6th grade.
I had been graduated from high school when Shadow of the Colossus came out.
But no, yeah, I mean, a lot of them were just period pieces in my life. And I'm sure that's the way that a lot of people feel about a lot of games. It wasn't a list of the games that I think that, the games that I've played that I think are the best developed of all time. They're the games that are the most important to me. And a lot of there's a lot of other ones that kind of almost make it on there. But
Very
You know,
cool.
if I had to pick and choose, that's where we end up.
Awesome. Well, I'll hop into my list because JJ has a show and tell for his.
Oh boy,
No,
So,
JJ, I'm starting my timer with you, dog. I'm sorry.
you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry.
all right, here's mine. So, quick preface: mine are meaningful and impactful because of certain aspects of my life, right? So, different things happen in my life that these games all kind of timed up with. First one is Donkey Kong on the Atari on
Yeah.
2600. So, my dad
Throwing
used to
cookies
work.
at ya.
Yeah, my dad used to work in Toledo and
For
he would drive-
Nintendo.
well, he for Nintendo. He would drive to Toledo during the week and come home on the weekends. So we didn't see him for a full week, and this was all through the early '80s. And nice, look at
Come
that
in.
doorbell.
You're welcome.
And so, but every time he came home from on the weekends, Friday night, he would bring us a new Atari game. He would get them for like super cheap at the factory that he was working at. So, he brought Donkey Kong one time, and I'd seen Donkey Kong in arcades, but having it at home, this was like having an arcade game at my house, right? And this was my first exposure to Nintendo. And of course, that Peach, I don't know what is going on with Peach or Donkey Kong there. They all look so terrifying, but
Excuse me. It's Pauline.
sorry, Pauline.
Pauline.
But my dad and I would, and my brother, the three of us would play for hours, and it was kind of like our bonding time. And I definitely credit my dad for getting me into video games because he wanted us to do something during the week when he wasn't around. So he got us to 2600. And Donkey Kong was basically the one that we just spent the most time on. Space Quest.
Yeah.
I got into PC gaming in the mid to late 80s. Adventure games blew my mind because to me, this was the first open world style game, these types of games, because you could walk around, you could walk behind trees. At the time, I always, I was thinking that you were actually solving problems in any way you wanted to, but it really did feel like that, even though they had like text prompts, look at body, and half the time or 95% of the time, none of the words would ever match up. But Space Quest and all the other Quest games, especially Space Quest, though, such a great level of comedy, great writing. I kickstarted Space Venture, so I'm going to be giving that a shot soon. But yeah, just the Space Quest games. My first real foray into PC gaming and thinking, holy shit, this is an incredible experience from a storytelling standpoint. Like getting into storytelling because I can make the story my own. So I loved the visual style too. They did so much with the really crappy giant pixels there. Speaking of storytelling, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past is probably my favorite game of all time because it introduced me to setting and mood and world in video games. Like stories are one thing. You can have Bible's worth of text that spew at you in video games like the Dragon Quest games, Dragon Warrior Time, Space Quest, that kind of stuff. But there was mood and environment, and this opening rain scene was unheard of in video games for setting the mood for what you're going to experience, which was you're not playing a video game where you're jumping across or hitting people with the sword like the previous Zelda games. You're playing Link's story. This is something that's happening to all of Hyrule, and it felt so completely unique and different at the time, and it still holds up to today. And the visuals, even though Link has pink hair, still holds up today.
It was creep. It was creepy. It was crazy storytelling back in the
It
time.
really was.
It was despite being so big, it was hyper focused.
It really was.
It was a story. It was a
and it made you
story.
feel exactly, and it made you feel like you could go. I mean, I could chop down bushes and I could dig holes, and I dug a hole in every available spot in all of Hyrule, in the dark world, in the light world. It was amazing.
Yeah. What's really cool about A Link to the Past is I love the castle area, like right here. The way they're able to make like a castle layout be a puzzle is just so smart.
Yes.
Yeah. It reminds me of Dragon Quest VII, where they do the same thing, where the castle's just like it's like kind of like a maze. It's just the game design and dungeon design in this game is just crazy.
It really, it's probably still some of the best video game dungeon design of all time. Like it still tops modern games. Warcraft for PC. And I believe, was it this Warcraft or Warcraft 2? I can't remember, which you could actually play online against other people.
2.
Was it 2? Okay.
2,
Well, irregardless, which isn't a word.
It is now.
It is.
Oh yeah, I was forgetting. I was gonna put Warcraft / World of Warcraft on my honorables.
Not World of Warcraft.
I know.
But right, because I haven't really played it. But Warcraft 1, and then 2 and 3. Blizzard did some incredible things with Warcraft, because I was so used to these types of games with like ActRaiser and SimCity, which was like really static. But then in Warcraft, you're building resources. As it's a tower defense game is really what it is, and they're the
it's
progenitor.
Like Dota.
Yeah, that's amazing. Almost like Dota. But no, it was such a unique experience at the time. Setting up towns, and then you'd get so good at it that where you would have like the reverse horde. You'd create so many characters, so many heroes and soldiers, and send them out in giant swaths of like 9 or 15, whatever the max number was. On a map, and it was so unique, and you would replay the maps over and over and over again. At least we would, to minimize our losses to the point where we could get through each of these maps without losing a single soldier. It was great. It just my first modern-ish PC experience, and Warcraft 1 still holds up. And then finally, Pokemon Go. You giggle, but Pokemon Go came out.
Oh, it's not a giggle. It's a belly laugh.
It's fine. No, so Pokemon Go came out in 2016 when we were trying to get our daughter to go outside more often, talk to people. No one was really social in our old neighborhood. But when Pokemon Go came out, every single person was outside with their kids. Everybody was walking around. I had friends of mine whose kids are autistic. They're on this autistic spectrum. And their kids were able to experience being social outdoors and around other people because everybody was doing this really fun, unique work together thing. You'd find the Pikachu or whatever the gator thing, I don't know, whatever, a Cyndaquil. You'd find stuff in
big fan over here.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd find something, the fire porcupine, all those guys.
But you'd see something pop up on your phone that's in like near a bush, and everybody in the neighborhood would run over there to capture something that you already have like 50 of already. But it was such an incredible social experience that it broke down a lot of barriers for us and for my daughter and for people in our neighborhood and for friends of mine that Pokemon Go is never going to go away. It's still going to remain a big thing, and they're going to, whether they add new Pokemon, whether they add challenges, whether they open up ways to do different things. It's the perfect social game out there, from the absolute simplicity. You're just swiping. I mean, you really are just flicking crap on a screen. You can't lose at Pokemon Go. You just got to put more money in until you eventually win. But it's the easiest experience, and it is what, like, Wii Sports was great for getting like elderly and families to play video games. This was to that next level because everybody has a phone. It was the one time where you let your kid hold on to your phone as you walked around your neighborhood, because they would run through the neighborhood and you have to run after them because they found Pikachu in a corner. And it's just like, unless you're a parent, it's very difficult to explain it. It's just such an incredible social experience, and it's something that I'm going to remember. The summer of 2016, we were outside for hours every single day, walking through our neighborhood, bumping into families doing the same exact thing, people that we would never talk to. And I think it's just something that's going to constantly remain embedded. And it's why I still play today. When I go for my walks, I still play Pokemon Go, even though, I've mastered it. There's nothing to do in Pokemon Go. It's just capture more Pokemon, but it's still the social experience. And every once in a while, I'll still see kids walking around, playing the game. My daughter and I will kind of wave to them, that kind of stuff. So yeah,
it's easy.
Those are my 5.
It's easy to ignore Pokemon Go because there's no news about it anymore. Nobody talks about it anymore. But you go to any,
it's just as big.
I've been to 2 PAXs and a few
Yeah.
comic conventions this year, and every time somebody sits down to get off their feet for a second, you can walk by, look at their phone screen, and see that they're trying to get a Pokemon that is in the convention center somewhere. It's a wild experience still for a lot of people out there. So.
And like I said, it's meaningful to me for a completely different reason. Playability wise, it's boring as hell, but it's this social atmosphere. So, those are my 5.
And it will forever be linked to your daughter. It will be good memories you have with your daughter, which is just as important as any other sort of, it doesn't matter how good or bad it is. Right? You have fond memories of it coming from that angle.
You're going to see, Taylor, when your kid is playing Roblox and you're like, stay away from those games. They're going to be...
She's going to be locked in a room playing my Mister on a CRT television until she gets through the entire SNES catalog, and only then will she be able to connect to the internet again.
Love it. All right, so those are mine. Now,
all right.
Last, certainly not least of the crew.
Yeah, I'm going to start off with the quick blister of these are the games that I love, but I don't think are the most formative. I think some of them are some of the greatest games of all time. So it's my almost list. So I have physical props, no things. So it's either the copies of the game or things that I have. So first up is Ocarina of Time.
I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think it's a formative 3D game, more so than even Mario 64 was in terms of what they were trying to accomplish in the world of games at the time. And I was always a huge fan. Play the Ocarina. It is a digital Ocarina, so it...
You're really good at that.
Yeah, so I can do it.
Incredible. He's a ventriloquist too.
Yeah, it's so
it's raining.
So Ocarina of Time. Next up, Portal. I got my shell.
I thought about putting Portal on my list too.
Portal is probably, I know what my number 1 game of all time is regardless. Portal's probably number 2. I fucking love Portal. I love both games. I consider them one game in my brain. It's like the Star Wars movies. I don't rank the Star Wars movies. It's like, I just like Star Wars. It's the same thing. Portal 1 and 2 are some of the best designed, best written puzzle games, video games of all time. I love everything about Portal, and it was formative for me in that sense. Next up, I would be remiss not to mention Windjammers.
Oh God, please!
Of course,
Windjammer Lammy.
Yeah, of course, it's the collector's edition, so I do have the
Windjammers
frisbee to go with it. Listen, man, Windjammers rules. I will never get tired of Windjammers, and I just had to bring it up at some point because it's become a meme, but it is true. I love Windjammers more than anything. Last on the honorable mentions list is Super Mario Brothers 3.
There you go.
A relatively mint boxed copy of Super Mario Brothers 3.
Wow.
It's the greatest.
I could see if I could find my no sleeve.
Yeah, same with
probably
me.
loose on my shelf.
Do you still have the black sleeve? You probably still have one of those 18,000 black sleeves.
I have quite a few of them.
And the old the clear rental clamshell.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 3 is the greatest platforming game of all time. I don't care what anyone will try to fight you. I love Super Mario World. I think Super Mario World's a great game, but 3 is just the level design, the level the language of the game is easy to understand, and it really tells you everything you need to know.
It's just so much more precise. There's no fat. It's all meat.
It's all meat. Yeah.
I like the frog suit.
Yeah.
The frog, and it's got the frog suit, man.
Frog suit. Everyone talks about the hammer suit, but it's the frog suit. So now we'll get to the actual meat of the list, and obviously number 5 has to be one that has come up on SideQuesting before in the past with me.
Sure it has.
Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Also
the
only good Sonic game.
Yeah, also the Mega Drive version of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 from Japan. It's probably the one. It's the first time I played a video game where I kind of understood video games more as sort of a something more than just a toy. There was something about it that clicked with me in a weird way, and I can never quite fully explain it. But Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was a bigger game than the first one, a better looking game than the first one. Great, like it's the first time I recognized the soundtrack really in a game. I knew the Mario music, like like everyone did, but it's like Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2, especially 2. Like the chemical plant zone theme is forever burned. Like playing, it's
permanently. It's permanently
permanently
affixed in my brain.
Yeah. So
Not me.
The first thing I ever did for SideQuesting was write about my love for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Yep. It's not even one of my favorite games of all time. It would never make the list of my favorite games of all time, but it's just so formative for me. Next up, number 4 on the list is the original Monkey Island.
Ooh.
Secret of Monkey Island is obviously this is the Sega CD version, because that's the version I originally played, and that's what Limited Run re-released on the Sega CD. It is one of the funniest video games ever made. Mm-hmm. So many of the jokes, it's like The Simpsons in a way for me, where so many of the jokes just sort of shaped my sense of humor going forward. It's just quirky. It plays really well. It's the first adventure game I ever played. And I have fallen in love with the genre ever since. I love adventure games. I don't get tired of trying to combine 2 random items to see if it works, because Monkey Island in particular trains you to think outside the box for some solutions of things. So Secret of Monkey Island is absolutely one of my absolute all-time favorites. Next up, I have the NES version, but just also know that I'd probably say the Game Boy version of Tetris.
Yeah.
It is Tetris is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the single most played video game in my life. I have
mine as well.
Yeah. If there's a new Tetris, I'm buying it. I play it. I like to.
You just sort of memories. There was a version of Tetris that came pre-installed on, or at least I don't know if it's Windows 95 broad, but on the Gateway 2000 computer that we had, it came with a version of Tetris pre-installed on it, that not just me but my mother also played. I mean, that was also one of my first long time racked up hours.
Sure. I have met Alexi. I have talked to him about Tetris. Tetris is part of me as a human being. I love it. I love it so much. It's like I have fond memories of it. Like growing up, my dad, me and him would constantly play Tetris. He blew the batteries up in my Game Boy once playing Tetris for so long. Like I could hear it pop from across the room. That's how long he was playing Tetris in my Game Boy. But fuck, man, I love Tetris.
Tetris is cool.
Yeah. Tetris 99. I still find myself with
Tetris 99 is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
Tetris DS is really good.
Yep.
And even bootleg ass Tetris games tend to be all right. Like the physics are weird or something, but like, I'm still here for it. Next up, number 2 should be absolutely no surprise to anybody, especially if you've been following recent JJ news. But Gen 1 of Pokemon.
Wow, there we go.
I have Red and Yellow because these are my two originals from the fucking mid-90s. The batteries, it's not the same save. The batteries have long since been dead, so it's new saves. And I have my if I can get it in the camera, my Gengar tattoo to go with it, because Gengar is my favorite Pokemon of all time.
Yeah, I made a mistake and didn't include yellow, because you were red and yellow, I was blue and yellow, because when I got my Game Boy Color, got Pokemon Yellow with it.
Yeah, I wasn't really I was in fucking middle school when Pokemon first hit, and it's just, yeah. I know, Zach, were you even born yet?
I was in kindergarten.
Okay, there we go.
Damn.
No, you were. No, you were not. You were not.
Oh no.
But yeah, I've yet to miss a mainline Pokemon game to this day. I even with them being
They miss
kind
me.
of- yeah. Even with them being what they are now, I still play them. I still look forward to them. I will always love this franchise. I was all in on the card game. I was all in on the anime. I was way too old to probably be going to see Pokemon the first movie in theaters when it came out.
I wasn't.
But I fucking went. I was
perfect
there.
age.
But there I was. I can't get
3.
Yeah. Yeah. But Pokemon Red, it was just, the social experience, like you talked about with Pokemon Go, between that and the card game, there was nothing else like it for me at the time. I wasn't into any of the other kind of card games, like, Magic and stuff was already starting to become a thing, but Pokemon was it for me. And everyone brought their Game Boy to school. Everyone was battling and trading. Went to Toys R Us to get my Mew. That all that stuff. I've yet to sort of go all in like every aspect of a video game like I have of Pokemon. So there's that. And last but not least, my absolute favorite video game of all time. I don't know.
Here it is. Come on, give it to me.
I have the soundtrack on vinyl here. Any guesses? Anybody want to guess?
Cyberpunk
Windjammers 2.
Windjammers 2, baby.
Ninja Turtles.
Or
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 1.
Okay.
Hey,
the
that's
first
a game.
Kojima game to make the.
Hey, they're on my honorable mentions, Dolly. Hey,
Yeah,
all right,
there is no video game that I think about more in my life than the entirety of the Metal Gear franchise. I think about the storyline. I think about lines from it. I think about the gameplay. I think about the history of it. Kojima consumes my life every day. Now he's got a podcast, and now it's just more and more Kojima all the time. And Metal Gear Solid 1, like because I played Metal Gear on the NES, like, the American versions of it. It wasn't like, it didn't, so I knew of the game when Metal Gear Solid came out, but it didn't like link into me like
Sure.
When Metal Gear Solid 1 came out, like, played the Pizza Hut demo disc. There we go. All right, I'm all in. That game comes out, I rent it, beat it in an entire weekend, proceed to buy it like a month later, and it's one of those games. It's like Ocarina of Time. I do a Metal Gear Solid. It's Sam and Star Fox 64 and shit like that. I play through Metal Gear Solid 1 once a year, every year without fail. I try. I never know going in if I'm going to take the Hal or Meryl route. It's just however I feel going into the game. But it goes above and beyond cinematic in so many ways. Like, video games were already becoming cinematic things at this stage, but Metal Gear Solid pushed the envelope for what that meant.
Sure.
And it changed video games as a whole for the rest till the end of time. It's such a perfect video game, and I get speechless thinking about Metal Gear Solid.
Like, I'm gonna piggyback off of you. Say that Metal Gear Solid, just the series in general, like 1, 2, and 3. 4 and 5, like all of them, but just those 3. Like, they came out in a time where I was like younger, so like I just wasn't at that capability of like being able to play the games. But I was able to watch my brother play. And I would watch him play his games all the time. Like, they're his favorite games. And what I think is really formative about them to me is not the way it's shot or the way it plays, but the way the writing is serious but also hammy at the same time, I think is really was really a shaping moment for me as a person, because like everything I like is in that area. Like it's always just kind of like, okay, it's kind of schlocky, it's kind of serious, it's kind of like, and Kojima still does it the best, but
Yeah.
I just love that type of writing. And I think those games really were formative to me because of that.
Yeah.
I remember us renting it from Blockbuster, and us not having the codec number to call. So he called up to Blockbuster like, "Hey, can you go look at the game case for me? I need this codec number." And they gave it to us. But like, it's just like, I just remember so much. It's just like hiding behind the couch whenever there was like a dead body on the screen, or like just like stuff like that, because I was so young.
Yeah.
And then they ended up becoming my favorite games too. But it's like so formative. It's just I didn't realize it until kind of like now. I was like, whoa, like, there's just so much there of me. And then I wanted to piggyback off of what Taylor said about Pokemon, and also playing a game that was foreign translated, whatever. I played Pokemon Gold off of a floppy disk. My brother got a pirated copy of Pokemon Gold that was translated from a different language. So it was just like really poorly written English, but we were able to play it on our like desktop computer. That's a very formative moment in my life too, just like broken English Pokemon games. So
man.
Awesome. These are awesome. These are like it's amazing what the reasoning behind why we love these games. None of them are because the graphics were amazing at the time. It really doesn't hit. I mean, maybe Mario Brothers 2, but it really doesn't hit at any of those, you know.
And I do want to say with Metal Gear Solid that it was also very strange to play such a political game, like a game that like had like an actual like purpose, like modern day purpose to it. That wasn't just like,
man, when I played Metal Gear Solid in middle school, it was must sneak kill like there all that shit was like so right over me. Didn't even fucking register, not a little bit.
Well, here are a couple here are from some of the folks in our Discord and our community. Grufferstein says Chrono Cross, hands down one of the biggest points in their life gaming wise, not only shaped how they think about JRPGs but storytelling as a whole. Chrono Cross was fantastic. I never completed Chrono Trigger, but I completed Chrono Cross a bunch of times on the PS1. So
bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
And then he said,
it's not even like it's because you were. I was like 4 when Chrono Trigger came out or something. It's just.
I think I was just getting into high school time. They say past that, the Warcraft series, starting with 2 Tides of Darkness, leading into WoW, jump-started my love of fantasy and showed me good and bad lessons on long-form storytelling, tropes, and how to keep a story fresh over 2 decades.
Oh boy, do I have something for you.
Uh-oh.
I was gonna say, like, long-form storytelling, like they're doing in WoW now, saying like, hey, you know that thing in the past that we didn't have any intention. Yeah, that's fun.
Stefan, who's also watching us right now, says it's not my favorite game, but one game in particular that molded me in a unique way. Final Fantasy IV. Every 4th of July, our family would go over to our friend's big party, and they had all the games. Each year, instead of going to the pool, I spent some time playing the amazing intro of Final Fantasy IV. Stefan, go to the pool, man. Come on. Went through the Red Wings, saw great hockey team, saw the town get destroyed, really made me love RPGs. Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy IV.
So Final Fantasy IV was also one of my notables. It was I don't know. I think I first cleared it on emulator, but it was the first Final Fantasy game that made me cry. Dude, there were some sad moments of Final Fantasy IV for sure.
At the end, you know, with
oh my god,
the one with Cecil.
Yeah.
That's
I remember playing. We would rent that game, and
Cecil's cool.
The very first time we rented Final Fantasy IV, it was Final Fantasy II at the time.
I'm glad that
And then
I'm
Final
glad
Fantasy
we've moved
3
on
was
past
actually
that.
Final Fantasy 6.
Yep. And I ended up we got to the last boss. Like we only have like a 24-hour rental at whatever the movie warehouse or whatever it was over here. So you get to like the last area, the moon. After you as a kid, you just binge. You just sit there and you binge and you play games. And we had to return the game. And so we returned the game, couldn't rent it for another week because we would only rent games on the weekends. And the following weekend, somebody had rented it.
And their save was gone.
When we finally got it back, our save was gone. But went through it again, no issue. This time unlocked even more stuff. Made more just craziness, weapons, all that kind of stuff.
Ain't no classes in Final Fantasy 4.
None in Final Fantasy 4. That was 5.
That's 5 or
that
3.
Was 3 and 5. Yeah. But we got so good, and again, we didn't complete it because we ran out of time. We got so good at renting the game over and over again. We would replay it nonstop. Every time we ran it, we got the game down to like, I think 12 hours. We could just like plow through it in 12 hours to get to the final boss.
Speed running Dally over here.
Yeah, first real speed running out of necessity. But man, that storytelling was because it was very classic, very trope filled video game fantasy storytelling. But the mix of fantasy with technology, the first kind of inklings of technology was so revolutionary at the time for video games that man, and like the turn-based
Fantasy Star
still holds up. Yeah, true. But this is a real game. The turn-based the turn-based still holds up. The battle sequences and Final Fantasy IV was fantastic. So good call on that one. And then finally, Johnny Wags. Oh God, Johnny Wags. Sexy Johnny Wags says, even though the fandom marred it, Undertale has the most heart, unintended, out of any game I've ever played. It's unbelievable that a game that good would only make me want to play it once and made me appreciate Earthbound more. That great.
One day I'll play both of those games.
Undertale is it's so crazy to think what Earthbound's done for video games, for a special like really subset of gaming. Right? It's just like it's just really just whoa. But like Lisa, the Painful, one of my favorite games of all time, wouldn't exist without Earthbound. It wouldn't exist without Undertale. Like it's just like there's so many like events that have happened because of Earthbound existing. It's just crazy. But Undertale is just another one of those singular games. Like it wouldn't happen if there wasn't a guy, an indie developer behind it. It's just such a that game is special. So good. It's the Gurren Lagann of video games.
And it's not you go back and play it now, you're like, it's rough around the edges, there's issues here and there, but it made people realize, oh wait, RPGs don't have to have dragons in them. Like there's a mysterious dad that you never, sorry, spoiler, you never see. You just get the crazy phone calls. But because it was based in reality, I think I honestly, I think games like Disco Elysium, which we were talking about, don't exist in the way they do if it wasn't for stuff like Earthbound saying, hey, let's break what it means to tell a video game story.
Yeah, because like Earthbound, it's so weird to me that game didn't blow up as much as it did at the time, because like Stand By Me was so huge. Like E.T., like those just like Spielbergian kind of like setups of like kids going on an adventure. Like why didn't Earthbound like pop off as much as it did?
Give me an Earthbound TV series like on Netflix, like Stranger Things, because it's basically Stranger Things. And
I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like even like the opening, like kind of like graphic of that game is very clearly designed to be like old cereal pulps and Twilight Zone ass shit going on. Like this is like a video. This is a video game company attempting to make a serial, like a sci-fi serial, in a time where it really wasn't possible to really go that hard, and they still did it. Like
they still did it, baby. But great lists, great selections. This is a great conversation because you can sort of predict what some of each of our selections are going to be, but then you kind of get the reasoning behind it. You're like, oh, okay, that's what That's why JJ loves Windjammers so much, or that's why Zach loves.
I didn't really
these
explain why I
Elysium.
love Windjammer
No,
so
but
much.
but your love of like the retro,
Mhm.
the childhood aspect of things. You know,
I guess
that's
like
why Taylor loves Dota, because he just loves sequels. You know.
Yeah.
no, so like my story about Okami, like why it was so important, like it's shaped just the way I think about games, like being able to like gameplay, referencing story, referencing everything, like that's just so huge to me because of that game.
Sure.
But the whole reason why I even played the game is the story goes Twilight Princess was getting just delayed every like couple of months at that time.
Yeah.
Like 2005, 2006, 2004, around there. It was like, it's coming out. Okay, it's getting delayed. Okami, I would read Game Informers like crazy, PlayStation Magazine, Nintendo, whatever. I'd read those like crazy. Game Informer, I saw Okami and I saw like, hey, this is like, ooh, a cool game about a wolf. In my mind at the time, being like a fifth grader or whatever, it's like, okay, so I'm gonna play Okami because you're a wolf, and in Twilight Princess you're gonna be a wolf. So I'll just like that'll hold me over until Twilight Princess.
I think a lot of
I played
people do that,
Okami, and it literally just like changed my life. Like it's like the first game I spent like 60 hours in. First game I beat more than like once. Like I've played that game so much, but like it's just like it's a game I can just go back to at any time, and I find something different about it that I love, and I find pieces of myself in it, which is like a really interesting thing that games just kind of give you in general. Like games just kind of like you play a game like, oh, I like this game. You go back to it as an adult and you're like, oh, that's me. Like that's like I just love that about games. But Okami is just if like my soul in person could be a game, it's that game 100%. But it's all because I was waiting for Twilight Princess.
Like Windjammers. Well, dudes, thank you for this awesome conversation, and I like doing this. Is different than a little bit of homework, different than our usual news, because they're again nice, kind of light news week.
It was either this or talk about how the Stadia unsurprisingly failed, and so
we'll talk about that next.
Pretty obvious choice.
Yeah, but this is a great conversation. We'll try to do these once a month or so and see what pops up. Whether it's we did impactful games, maybe we'll choose maybe we'll go with genres, or we'll go our favorite lore. Give us some suggestions in the comments, because that really does actually helps guide the show with ideas. And we'll try to do the question of the week as well. Yeah.
You know what would be really interesting? Top 5
remakes. Hell yeah.
Really interesting. I was just thinking about like if we did like if we did a top 5 like video game stories, my list would be completely different. Like there are so many games that I said that wouldn't be on there.
Yep.
That would be a really interesting like top 5 stories. Like
put your suggestions in there. Whether it's top 5 stories or something completely.
The answer is still Metal Gear
different. No, but no, this is a lot of fun. I definitely look forward to doing it. And again, the best way you can thank us for sharing some time with you on a Sunday evening, or if you're listening to this podcast or video some other time, is to like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Really, though, if you're watching us on YouTube or Twitch, thumbs up this bad boy, because that really does help if you click like. Like if you're watching on Twitch, go to our YouTube channel and just like a bunch of the videos. Trust me, you don't have to watch them. Just hit like. That
you don't want to
watch them. You don't want to watch them. Look at our faces. We're not shaved. We're tired. We're all sick. JJ again has the longest beard out of everybody somehow.
I don't know. Zach's kind of got me right now, I think.
Zach might have you, but you haven't seen Sam's beard. No, this is these are a lot of fun. We love doing this podcast. So yeah, do all that fun stuff. Subscribe, tell your friends, yada yada. You can find us at sidequesting.com. Find us individually. Just go to the post, and the links are all there. I'm too tired and too lazy.
Who the fuck cares about Twitter anyway?
Who the fuck cares about Twitter?
Discord's where it's at. That's where all
Discord.
the good conversations happen.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of great conversations. True. It really is good.
Guys, I'm getting my Steam Deck this week.
There you go. Oh, look who freaking joins now. Right, it's Mr. Wiener.
CM Wiener.
Calamity Wiener. What he says? What are we talking about? You.
We're talking about leaving. That's what
We're talking about leaving. Great, perfect timing. Friends, thank you again. SideQuesting.com. We'll see you all on the next episode of. Somebody say it.
The
Side quest.
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 Zach.